You think you're free, but your emotions, habits, and need for acceptance are pulling invisible strings. Today, we expose the psychological chains that keep you obedient and teach you how to break them. From the moment you seek to be understood, you surrender something precious: control. Most people believe explanation is strength. They believe clarity earns respect. They believe that if others only knew their intentions, judgment would soften and resistance would fade. This belief is a weakness disguised as virtue. Machiavelli knew better. Men are not moved by truth, they are moved by advantage. When you explain yourself, you are not educating, you are exposing. You are laying out your fears, your limits, your moral boundaries, your emotional triggers. And once these are known, they are no longer yours alone. Watch carefully how power operates in the real world. Those at the top rarely justify their actions. Kings do not argue with peasants. Commanders do not explain strategy to soldiers in the heat of battle. Authority speaks briefly, if at all. Explanation is demanded only from those beneath. The need to be understood comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misjudged, fear of standing alone. But fear is the very thing manipulators sense first. When someone realizes you crave approval, they no longer need force, they only need to threaten misunderstanding. People will pretend not to understand you, not because they cannot, but because it gives them leverage. They will twist your words, question your motives, and provoke you into further explanation. Each time you clarify, you sink deeper. Each sentence becomes a rope they pull tighter. Notice how arguments work. The more you defend yourself, the weaker your position appears. Silence unsettles, restraint intimidates. When you do not rush to justify yourself, others are forced to reveal their intentions instead. Machiavelli observed that men judge more by appearance than by reality. What they think about you matters more than who you truly are. By explaining yourself, you attempt to control perception through honesty. But perception is not ruled by honesty. It is ruled by mystery. Mystery creates space. Space creates authority. When people cannot fully read you, they hesitate, they speculate, they project. And in that uncertainty, they become cautious. A person who is fully understood is predictable. A predictable person is manageable. Think of how often your explanations are not accepted anyway. You speak sincerely, yet suspicion remains. You clarify, yet they doubt. This is not a failure of communication, it is the nature of power. People accept explanations only when it benefits them to do so. So stop pleading your case. Let your actions speak without commentary. Let silence force interpretation. When you refuse to explain, you shift the burden onto them. Now they must decide what you mean. Now they must guess your limits. This does not mean lying. Machiavelli never advocated foolish deceit. It means strategic restraint. Say what is necessary, no more. Truth revealed too freely loses its value. Those who demand explanations often seek control, not clarity. They want reassurance that you are harmless, predictable, safe to challenge. When you deny them this comfort, you reclaim power. Observe how confident individuals move. They do not rush to defend their choices. They do not panic when misunderstood. They allow rumors to circulate. They allow opinions to form. And strangely, this detachment draws respect. Because nothing is more unsettling than someone who does not need to be believed. If you always correct misconceptions, people learn that pressure works on you. If you always explain your intentions, they learn where your conscience lives. If you always defend your character, they learn that reputation matters to you. And what matters to you can be threatened. Power begins when you stop negotiating your identity. Machiavelli understood that rulers fall not because they are cruel, but because they are transparent. Enemies study openness, rivals exploit predictability, friends grow bold when they know your limits. So speak less, reveal slower, let discomfort linger. When accused unfairly, pause. When misunderstood, resist the urge to clarify. When judged, allow the judgment to stand unanswered. Not every battle requires your voice. Some require your silence. Silence forces others to confront their own assumptions. It exposes who seeks truth and who seeks dominance. It separates allies from manipulators. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to remain unowned. The need to be understood is the need to belong, and belonging always comes at a price. When you kill that need, you become dangerous, not because you attack, but because you cannot be steered, softened, or guilted into submission. Those who cannot read you cannot play you. Those who cannot predict you cannot command you. Those who cannot control the narrative must adjust to your presence rather than reshape it around their comfort. And once people realize that confusion no longer moves you, that misunderstanding no longer provokes you, that silence no longer frightens you, they begin to tread carefully, because power does not argue. It waits, it observes, it withholds. It allows others to reveal themselves first. The most effective form of control is not violence, not authority, not even fear. It is dependence. The moment your sense of worth, safety, or direction relies on another person's approval, you are no longer acting freely. You are responding to permission. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He observed that those who depend on others for favor become servants long before chains are visible. Approval is a currency, and whoever controls it controls behavior. When you crave validation, you hand someone the power to shape your choices without ever raising their voice. Look closely at how people lose themselves. They do not collapse all at once. They adjust. They compromise. They silence their instincts to remain accepted. Each small surrender feels harmless, but together they build a life governed by external judgment. The hunger for approval often disguises itself as loyalty, politeness, or humility. In reality, it is fear wearing respectable clothing, fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of standing alone without applause, and fear is the most reliable leash ever invented. When your survival, emotional, social, or financial, depends on pleasing others, truth becomes negotiable. You begin to say what is expected, not what is necessary. You tolerate disrespect because confrontation risks abandonment. You accept injustice because resistance threatens comfort. Machiavelli warned that men who rely on favors are destroyed by those who grant them. What is given can always be withdrawn. Approval is never stable. It shifts with mood, advantage, and convenience. Today's praise becomes tomorrow's silence. Today's support becomes tomorrow's condition. Notice how quickly people change when approval is at stake. Principles dissolve, courage fades, convictions bend, not because people are weak by nature, but because dependence makes strength too costly. Those who seek approval are predictable. Predictability invites exploitation. Once one knows you need them to feel secure, they can delay their response, withhold recognition, or offer conditional acceptance to guide your behavior. You begin to chase signals, read expressions, interpret silence. Your mind becomes occupied not with strategy, but with permission. Power does not need to threaten you when it can starve you of validation. Machiavelli observed that a ruler who depends on others for support is already defeated. True power rests on self-sufficiency, not isolation but independence, the ability to endure disapproval without retreat, the capacity to stand firm while others withdraw their warmth. When you detach your survival from approval, something unsettling happens to those around you. They lose leverage. Their praise no longer controls you. Their disappointment no longer weakens you. Their silence no longer frightens you. This is why independent individuals are often labeled cold, arrogant, or difficult. These labels are weapons, not observations. They are attempts to shame you back into dependence. Society rewards obedience with acceptance and punishes autonomy with exclusion. But Machiavelli never advised seeking comfort. He advised seeking stability, and stability cannot be borrowed from others. It must be built within. Consider how many decisions you delay because you fear disapproval. How many opportunities you reject because they might offend someone. How many truths you swallow because honesty risks tension. Each moment of restraint trains you to obey. Approval-based living creates invisible masters. You may not know who they are, but they influence your actions all the same. A glance, a tone, a withheld response becomes command enough. Detach, and those commands dissolve. This does not mean hostility. It means neutrality, calm detachment. You can respect others without kneeling before their judgment. You can listen without surrendering. You can cooperate without dependence. Machiavelli believed that respect earned through strength outlasts affection earned through compliance. When people sense that you do not need them, their behavior changes. They become cautious. They measure their words. They realize influence must be earned, not assumed. Those who survive without approval are difficult to corner. They do not panic when excluded. They do not beg when ignored. They do not overextend to be liked. Their value comes from inner alignment, not external applause. Once you remove approval as a necessity, your decisions sharpen. You speak with clarity because you no longer calculate reactions. You act decisively because you no longer fear judgment. Your presence becomes firm, unyielding, composed. Dependence makes you small. Independence makes you untouchable. Machiavelli understood that freedom is not granted by others. It is taken by refusing to need what they control. When approval loses its power, manipulation loses its entry point. When validation is no longer required, obedience has nothing to anchor itself to. And when people realize they cannot reward or punish you with acceptance, they must deal with you directly, without leverage, without illusion, without the comfort of control. Control thrives on patterns. The moment your emotional responses become familiar, you are no longer an individual. You are a formula. And formulas are easy to manipulate. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous opponent is not the strongest, but the most unreadable. Most people believe consistency is virtue. They pride themselves on being emotionally transparent, on reacting authentically, on wearing their feelings openly. What they fail to see is that every repeated reaction becomes a lever. Anger, guilt, sympathy, fear. Once observed, each emotion can be summoned at will by those who wish to guide your behavior. If you always grow defensive when challenged, they will challenge you. If you always soften when praised, they will flatter you. If you always retreat when confronted, they will advance. This is not coincidence. It is strategy, often unconscious, sometimes deliberate. Machiavelli wrote that men are driven more by appearances than reality, and emotions are the most visible signals you give. When others can predict how you feel, they can predict what you will do. And once they can predict you, they no longer negotiate, they manage. Emotional unpredictability is not chaos. It is control. It is the discipline of response. The ability to feel without displaying, to experience without surrendering, to choose when emotion is revealed and when it is withheld. Consider how often people test you. A comment, a provocation, a delay, a subtle insult. These are not accidents, they are probes. Each one asks a silent question: how will you react? When you answer the same way every time, you teach them how to move you. Machiavelli understood the value of misdirection. He observed that uncertainty weakens enemies more effectively than aggression. When people cannot anticipate your emotional state, they hesitate. Hesitation breaks momentum. Momentum is power. The emotionally predictable are easy to destabilize. A single insult can ruin their composure. A single compliment can redirect their loyalty. A single fear can freeze their action. Predictability creates dependency on external triggers. Unpredictability removes that dependency. This does not mean emotional suppression. Suppression leads to eruption, and eruption restores predictability. It means emotional command. You decide which emotion serves the moment and which must remain hidden. There is a reason experienced leaders pause before responding. Silence is not emptiness, it is calculation. When you delay your reaction, you deny others immediate feedback. They are left guessing. Guessing breeds caution. Machiavelli believed that appearing inconsistent can be a strength, not inconsistency of values, but of expression. Today calm, tomorrow firm, one moment generous, the next distant. This fluidity prevents others from forming a reliable strategy against you. Those who rely on emotional leverage grow frustrated when it stops working. Guilt fails, provocation fails, sympathy fails. They escalate, revealing their intentions in the process. When your emotions are unpredictable, people expose themselves trying to provoke a response. They overplay their hand. They grow impatient. They make mistakes. Emotional unpredictability also protects your inner world. When everything you feel is visible, your inner life becomes public property. Anyone can intrude. Anyone can influence. Privacy is power. Machiavelli never suggested that a ruler reveal their heart. Each heart, once visible, becomes a target. Emotional transparency may feel honest, but honesty without strategy invites control. Notice how emotionally composed individuals command attention without effort. They are not loud, they are not reactive. Their stillness draws focus. Others adjust themselves around that stillness. Predictable emotion makes you reactive. Unpredictable emotion makes you directive. When people cannot read whether you are offended, amused, indifferent, or calculating, they must slow down. They watch more carefully. They choose words more cautiously. You set the pace without speaking. This is why emotional unpredictability is often misinterpreted as coldness. In reality, it is discipline. Warmth expressed selectively carries more weight than warmth given freely. Anger revealed sparingly is more effective than anger displayed constantly. Machiavelli understood timing as power. An emotion delivered at the wrong time weakens you. The same emotion delivered precisely can reshape outcomes. When you stop reacting automatically, you reclaim authorship over your behavior. You no longer dance to external cues. You decide when engagement is beneficial and when detachment is superior. People who cannot trigger you cannot steer you. People who cannot read you cannot rush you. People who cannot predict you must negotiate instead of manipulate, and negotiation is always preferable to obedience. Emotional unpredictability is not about confusing others for its own sake. It is about denying them a map to your inner landscape. When the terrain is unknown, invaders move slowly, allies tread carefully, and control loses its foundation. Every boundary that is crossed without consequence teaches others how to treat you. Not with respect, not with care, but with calculation. Machiavelli understood that boundaries are not maintained by words, but by outcomes. Rule without consequence is not a rule. It is a suggestion. Most people announce their limits loudly. They explain how they feel. They warn. They complain. They hope to be understood. But hope is not enforcement. Those who wish to test you are not listening to your words. They are watching what happens after they ignore them. Machiavelli observed that men are restrained not by virtue, but by fear of loss. When there is no cost to disrespect, disrespect becomes routine. When there is no penalty for intrusion, intrusion becomes habit. Boundaries dissolve not because they are unclear, but because they are unenforced. The fear of consequence is often misunderstood as cruelty. In truth, it is clarity. It removes confusion. It tells others exactly where the line stands without endless explanation. When consequences are consistent, behavior adjusts naturally. Those who rely on being liked hesitate to enforce consequences. They fear appearing harsh. They fear conflict. They fear being labeled difficult. This fear becomes an invitation. The more you tolerate, the more you are tested. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. He did not glorify tyranny, he described reality. Love fades under pressure. Fear of consequence remains stable. Boundaries protected by affection collapse when affection wanes. Boundaries protected by consequence remain intact regardless of mood. Observe how quickly people change. When they know an action will cost them something, tone softens, behavior corrects. Respect emerges not from empathy, but from awareness. This is why inconsistency destroys authority. If consequences are sometimes enforced and sometimes ignored, confusion reigns. Confusion invites challenge. Challenge invites dominance attempts. Machiavelli understood that firmness, once established, reduces the need for force. When people know where you stand, they stop pushing. When they are unsure, they probe relentlessly. Fear of consequence does not require aggression, it requires certainty, calm, measured, unavoidable response. No emotional outburst, no lengthy justification. Action follows violation as night follows day. Those who fear being seen as harsh often become invisible. Their boundaries are crossed, quietly, repeatedly, until resentment replaces dignity. Resentment then leaks out in passive ways, undermining respect even further. Machiavelli believed that authority decays when it relies on goodwill alone. Goodwill is temporary, advantage is permanent. Consequences align advantage with respect. When someone violates your boundary and nothing happens, they learn that your discomfort is negotiable. When a consequence follows immediately, they learn that your boundaries are real. This applies not only to others but to yourself. When you violate your own standards without consequence, you train yourself to ignore them. Self-respect erodes the same way external respect does, through tolerance of small breaches. Fear of consequence creates structure. Structure creates stability. Stability creates power. Many confuse kindness with weakness. Machiavelli separated the two. Kindness without consequence invites contempt. Kindness with firmness commands respect. When you enforce boundaries consistently, fewer conflicts arise. People either adjust or remove themselves. Both outcomes restore balance. Machiavelli understood that punishment need not be severe, it need only be certain. Certainty eliminates testing. Uncertainty encourages it. This is why leaders who hesitate are challenged, while leaders who act decisively are rarely questioned. Decisiveness communicates inevitability. Inevitability discourages resistance. You do not need to threaten. You do not need to explain. You do not need to justify. The consequence speaks for you. Those who feel safe crossing your boundaries do so repeatedly. Those who feel uncertainty pause. That pause is respect forming. Fear of consequence is not about domination. It is about preservation. It protects your time, your energy, your dignity. It ensures that access to you is earned, not assumed. Machiavelli understood that power is maintained not by constant force, but by the knowledge that force exists and will be used if necessary. When boundaries are protected by certainty, they rarely need defense. Those who know the cost do not test the line. Those who do not test the line never control the outcome. And when people realize that every action toward you carries weight, their behavior shifts from entitlement to consideration, from intrusion to restraint, from manipulation to caution. Control does not announce itself with chains or commands. It enters quietly, through emotion, approval, predictability, and tolerance. Most people are not conquered, they are conditioned to explain themselves, to seek permission, to react on cue, and to allow their boundaries to erode without consequence. Machiavelli understood that freedom is not a gift society gives, but a position one takes. When you stop needing to be understood, others lose access to your inner world. When you detach your survival from approval, validation loses its grip. When your emotions become disciplined rather than reactive, manipulation fails. When your boundaries are protected by certainty, disrespect finds no shelter. These lessons are not gentle, and they are not meant to be. Power is rarely comfortable. It isolates before it stabilizes. It demands restraint where instinct begs for release. It requires silence where ego wants to speak. But those who endure this discomfort gain something most never touch, the ability to move without permission. You will not be liked by everyone. You will not be fully understood. You will not be easily read. And you will not be casually crossed. In exchange, you gain sovereignty over your actions, your mind, and your direction. Machiavelli never promised moral approval, only effectiveness. These truths do not make you cruel, they make you ungovernable. And in a world that survives by pulling invisible strings, the one who cannot be pulled becomes a force others must adapt to rather than command.